Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Payne. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. We have Miles here as a guest, head of research at Blu Ocean Games Guild. Always love having you on, man. Thanks for
Always
coming.
love being here.
Yeah, I figured this would be good because there's a lot of new games we've been looking at that I think are good to introduce some of our community to. And there's just a lot of news and stuff going on.
This
So,
is a time of building, and I've been seeing a lot of new projects
right?
pop up.
Like almost the volume of new projects coming across our desks is more
The next
now.
few months for me is going to be a busy few months while I figure out, how many of these things. I've got like a list of 850 things. I've got a couple of lists of 850 things that I have to compare to each other and then pare down a little bit, and then it'll probably be a final list of like 400 things, which I will then slowly index and begin researching. And it's like, I wonder how many of these things are going to turn out to be super promising games like Ep.io or like Big Time or something like that.
Yeah, me too.
I've been seeing some cool previews.
Same. I mean, let's talk about the Ronin Network first, I think, because I like what they're doing. And basically, they're allowing their chain for other games, essentially. And we've
I
already
think that's
seen.
what's happening right now. They're kind of positioning the Mavis Hub as like a hub for games, Axie and other games that are uh, potentially made by other people.
Which is smart because there's liquidity there.
Well, I mean, if you look at the daily like 24-hour trade volume on the Ronin network, it's really really high.
Yeah. So I think it's smart that they did that. That kind of opened it up to other games rather than keeping it exclusive to Axie. And I mean, they had talked about making other games and developing stuff, but they really haven't. They've kind of stayed focused on Axie.
Yeah,
So
and there have been some developments that even I didn't know about that are happening in the Axie world. There's like mini games now that I haven't played yet that I'm excited to try out, and there's a couple of other games. For example, there's a game called Time Raiders that we've been
yes,
looking
I
at,
like this.
and there's even another game that's called The Machines Arena that I've been looking at. And both of these games, if I'm not mistaken, are on the Ronin network. At least The Machines Arena is definitely on the Ronin network. And
What do you know about that one?
I've only seen a couple of things. I've only played this game or seen it played on stream actually by one of the other guild members. His name's Nerd Love TV, and he was playing the game not yesterday, well yesterday and the day before, and I recently got a beta code to try it myself, which I'll be doing shortly after this film. But what I've seen of it is basically we've got a shooting game, but it's a top-down shooting game that kind of reminds me of like a lane MOBA type thing. But imagine that you've got different guns and you've got different characters that have different weapons, and you've got to reload and you're sort of shooting behind cover and things like that. But it's all top-down. And so the first mode is this like MOBA style mode where you're in teams of 4 and you're fighting each other, and the graphics are super clean and the movement seems super clean.
It did look nice.
And even like the projectile effects and everything like that seemed really really clean. So you feel really confident about your shots and things like that. But the second thing is there's a PvE mode, I guess you would call it, where you've got players kind of going through this like dungeon type thing. There's waves of enemies coming at you, and you sort of get upgrades as you go along, and the different upgrades that you can find are based on the different weapons or different abilities that the characters might have. So you just sort of keep going, and you end up fighting these massive waves of enemies with like 10 different abilities, and it gets really crazy.
That kind of reminds me of World Wide Web right now.
Yeah, so there's another game it's got a very similar structure to the current working structure of World Wide Web 3, which is another game we've been looking at. I don't think it's on the Ronin network. I think that was directly on ETH, but it is really really cool because they have a lot of partnerships with a lot of different projects, so that you can have sort of.
Well, actually, I found out they're not
PFP.
officially partnered with them.
No, not necessarily. No, they have basically fans of those projects can submit basically a working sprite for that particular project.
Yes.
And have it approved by the team, and then
the list is massive. I scrolled through it, and it was like, you've got all the famous ones, Moonbirds, Bored Apes, CryptoPunks.
There's even some less famous ones that look really cool. Like for example, there's a collection. I believe they're called Crypto Wizards, and the last time we looked at them, the floor was maybe $20 USD, like about 0.00 something ETH. You know what I mean? And one of our guild members, Nerd Love TV, he was looking at these different things, and he's like, well, I'm really enjoying this game, and I spend quite a bit of time sort of in their metaverse, in their overworld, and I'd like to not just be a dude in a suit. And I'm realizing that is like a huge push if all of these different projects start endorsing each other, which is clearly happening right now in this phase, where somebody could get a popular NFT from a popular project that has its own game and be like, oh, well, I'm playing this new game now, and I can use my NFT from this other game in it.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for more than a year.
With your same image, you know what I mean? And now I'm wondering, where my mind is wandering with this, true, is if there's going to be sort of like an overarching NFT that becomes created, that's sort of like an identity NFT that links to these different things to help create a composite identity.
There's a couple different ways that
does that exist? Yeah.
Yes and no. So there's a company, I believe it's called Cardinal something, or just Cardinal, and they were trying to do this on the Solana network, where basically it was wrapping your NFT. So you'd wrap the NFT, and then the wrapped NFT would be interoperable to another chain, and then they could be used on the other chain. And then basically to get back your original NFT that's wrapped is held in trust through this company. So there is some inherent risk in that, right? Centralized company holding your asset, but
yeah, we don't.
You're using the wrapped version on other platforms and other networks, and then you just simply have to. It's kind of like being in a liquidity pool. You get the LP token, and then in order to get your money out, you got to use the LP token. It's kind of the same thing with the wrapped NFT.
Okay, I see what you mean.
You use the wrapped NFT to get back your original NFT.
Interesting. Okay.
So they were working on that.
NFTs.
Yeah, and they were working on that for quite a while, but I haven't really heard any news in a long time, so I'm not sure what kind of issues they were running into. And what World Wide Web is doing is they're making it simpler. They're just saying verify that you own this, and then we'll give you the PFP version in our game, so you can look like it and see it.
As simple as that is you can look like that and see that, and that's really, really cool, because then you end up with these sort of like team fights. They've got this lane game that's a very, very basic but also super balanced and tons of fun to play MOBA, where it's either 2v2, 3v3, 3v3, 4v4, or 5v5, and sometimes ranked. And it's your average like base capturing sort of MOBA, but you don't really progress at all. You kind of just find power-ups at your bases, and you reload your shots, I guess you would say, at your bases, and you go and you try to capture the bases. But it's really, really cool because you've got these teams of like a bunch of different wacky looking people.
Yeah, there's like nexuses. I see.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. I actually had a lot of fun. And then so the other thing was when I played the game and I sort of got in there for free the first time, once you get a certain level of high score on their other game, which is a PvE mode, which is kind of like I would call it like a Vampire Survivor,
like a wave defense,
game where you can kind of just run around and find life and hope that you survive type deal. You've got a bunch of different, and I thought I actually asked them about that when I was streaming the game about a week and a half ago, and I had one of the guys who I think is a member of the development team was sort of spying on my stream, and he was telling me a little bit more about the history of that. And I guess originally and in the completed version of the game, you will have to like construct those things by sort of gathering materials and forging them in the overworld, those different power-ups that you can then go and take into that mode and then see how far you can survive.
Rather than them just dropping
at random and then you upgrading them at random. You'll have to find them or make them and then upgrade them yourself and then take them in.
And they did a good job at the whole like progression ladder race with it. Like it seems very well for wanting you to get to that next level, to try again, to keep going, to score on the leaderboard.
Yeah, so I did score on the leaderboard, and after you score a certain point on the leaderboard, you are given like an artifact shard where you can sort of turn it in for a skin, just a basic skin. And before then, like you start like a naked man, you know what I mean? And like imagine walking into a game where there's 1,000 people in the town square and you're just this naked dude, you know what I mean? Kind of don't want to be a naked dude after like the
it does look like just like a flesh bag.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to be a flesh bag anymore. I'd rather have something. And so eventually they give you like here's your starter thing. You can choose between these different starter things, and that was pretty cool. I was like, hey, look, I'm not just a naked dude. I feel different.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that.
To take it a step further than that is actually really cool. And there's going to be a bunch of different miniature game modes that are, separate from those first two, which I had a lot of fun, and I still have a lot of fun playing.
Nice. That's good. That's good to hear.
You can play on the leaderboard for the PvE mode every day. So every day you want to play the game and just get some of their shards and whatever, and you know that their economy is going to pick back up soon. So
yeah,
when that happens, you're going to want to have some of those shards in your inventory.
It makes me think about a little bit unrelated game, but related to what we were just talking about, Portal Fantasy. And
I'm really excited about this Portal Fantasy game. It kind of gives me, I would almost say, Scott Pilgrim vibes, and the reason why I say
Zelda and Pokemon had a baby.
Yeah, with a little bit of Final Fantasy mechanics in there, because like the gameplay system seems very Final Fantasy-ish.
Well, I found the
turn-based. It looks really cool.
That's the battle. Yeah, so the battling really is like turn-based Pokemon, Final Fantasy style.
I love that.
Without cards. So it is just you have your abilities and you got to time your abilities and stuff. Which is actually,
to be honest with you, a bit refreshing because a lot of the newer NFT projects have been going with card-based strategy. And I'm like, okay, I've had
enough of these.
I've had enough of that. Like, we get it, but this isn't Chain of Memories. Can we please?
But they basically the story is they're following the same in a lot of animes now it's all about a character being teleported to a new world. That's the whole idea with this.
Yeah, right? Which I think is super cool. Actually, a lot of animes are
like Log Horizon and Sword Art Online and all that. It's a common theme in anime right now. But what I liked is you go to this world and there's these portals that are now turned evil. These were all the like cutest creatures in the world, and they were all docile. And then all of a sudden, this like chaos thing happened, and now they're trying to kill everybody. So, but you, being from another world, have the ability to capture them. And it has the whole like Pokedex kind of thing
Right.
where it'll show you how many you've seen, how many you've caught, and I'm sure there's going to be evolutions and all kinds of other interesting things in there. I did get us a beta pass for a bunch of us in the guild, and I think they said there was up to 40 portables in the beta version right now.
Already? That's
so there it and like the map, the explore map reminds me of Zelda because it's puzzles.
Yeah, that's what I'm super stoked about. We have a Zelda overworld with like Pokemon slash let.
And then when you go in grass, you get the like do 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 do, and then you go to the battle kind of idea.
Yeah.
And what I really liked though, because I was actually talking to Andrew, he's a person on their team, and he was showing me how, and also telling me there's this creator mode where you get all the same assets that their development team gets access to in this really kind of easy to use user interface. So it's not like you open up Blender or something crazy, right? That's going to take you a bunch of hours to figure out. And you're just drag dropping the pixel assets. And I even asked him, I was like, well, could this be used as a guild safe house or a guild? And he's like, absolutely. What we're thinking is guilds can make this world where in order to be accepted into the guild, you have to complete the guild quest line and go through these challenges in that world. But people can really do anything they want. He said people could develop their whole world, a whole nother world aside from our game if they really want to put the time into it. And first, right off, I'm thinking that's a great way to get people to put a lot of hours in. Right? Because replayability is huge, especially for sustainability of a crypto
the Minecraft
project.
effect a little bit there.
Right? So that looks really cool. And I'm generally more... a lot of people know me close know I have a hard time playing retro games. I'm very high graphics oriented.
Not me.
Right? I want to see that kind of newer strides, but when the gameplay is good enough, I will play retro pixel, whatever type, and I feel like this is one that's hitting that for me. The gameplay is just good enough.
That's super important. Yeah. The gameplay be good enough, especially when you're trying to create something this grand.
And what I was going to reference based on our past conversation was what I think these guys are doing really good or really well is they've done a really good guild outreach program where they've reached out to all the guilds. They did. And just like Avocado and Merit Circle and YGG, and Andrew showed me this giant list he has of like all the guilds that they've reached out to, the ones that have been confirmed. And to me, that's when I realized why we got into Karma vs. Zombie. So when I started researching Karma vs. Zombie, the reason why we invested in that and started to get everyone to play was because all the guilds were doing it. All the big names in the industry. And right away, it's like, well, if their liquidity is coming, obviously that's a good place to put your liquidity.
This would be a sign for a stable market.
So I'm seeing the same kind of parallels between Karma vs. Zombie and all the guild promotion and like really just kind of get a lot of guilds involved. That Portal Fantasy is doing the same thing. So that to me means keep a close eye on this, maybe a little closer eye than some other projects. And then,
so for every project that I research, at the very end of my my confidence rating, I have a section that's labeled question mark, and it's really just there for anything that these people are doing that is different than everybody else is doing, whether it's defining in their genre or they're trying to define
big times
a new
open
genre.
loot system.
A really good example would be big times wallet technology.
Yes.
Nobody else has wallet technology quite like theirs, which was really huge for the time. But for these guys, the big thing that they're doing that nobody else is really doing is that they're supporting their whole project with a webcomic.
I like that too. I haven't mentioned that.
I haven't seen an actually good webcomic in a while, and I read the first couple chapters of the webcomic, and I genuinely want to read.
They're up to like 18 to 21 now too.
It's genuinely really good. So it's giving me like manga style pacing vibes, and it's just really cute. So I would like to continue reading that, and that's keeping me sort of interested in there. The only other project that I've seen that does something like that is Million on Mars. They've kind of got a thing, and it's not that it's different. I just like the art style, I think, of and the style of a webcomic a little bit more than what Million on Mars is doing, but the quality of the two pieces of art are definitely both really good.
Yeah, and the webcomic, I say the main difference between the two is Million on Mars, you kind of have to unlock.
Yeah, it's more of an unlockable story. That's right.
Where the webcomic with Portal Fantasy is just open. And I highly recommend anyone watching this go watch their trailer video. They did a really good job on like the minute and a half trailer video.
Portalfantasy.io is where you can find them.
Yeah, so I feel like that's something we're probably going to get involved in. I want us to test the beta a little bit, kind of get a sense for it. But I think this is one worth keeping a close eye on, for sure.
You guys will see a research report about it in the next few days.
Yeah. There's a couple other games that I've been looking at recently. that time one that you mentioned. I always keep mixing
Time
up
Raiders.
Time Raiders. Yeah, we were talking about maybe on the Ronin Network.
It looks really, really exciting.
It does, and what I like about it is, it's like a top-down kind of shooter game, but you're using like portals to summon dinosaurs and airplanes and like all kinds of like special stuff. But what I like is the graphics actually look good and the game legitimately looks fun.
Yeah, it looks smooth. That's right. That's super important now.
Well, replayability, like that's the thing. Yes, as a business and a game guild, we're looking for capital, games that have liquidity that are going to earn us earnings. But ultimately, if you can find a game that people are going to invest a lot of time in, that's a big green flag. Right? Because we know that the more time invested generally means the more liquidity, the more pullback. When a game
comes out that is fun enough and well designed enough that people will not be able to say no to it, we will be there and we'll know.
That's right. I mean?
Like example, if they made the new Diablo game is coming out, and if that game, everybody's got their eye on that because they know it's a Diablo game and you have to have a reputation for being a particular way. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so when that thing happens in this space, for example, Big Time is like that.
Yes.
People are looking at Big Time and like, wow, this looks very World of Warcraft-ish, and every time they make a new update, the quality increases. So now people are starting to get excited about that. So.
That reminds me about what Razer's doing, how they started a incubator program.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen a lot of, not just Razer, but a couple of other companies are doing the same thing, where they create an incubation like company almost.
But what I really like about what Razer said is their whole purpose is to bring Web3 projects to mainstream gamers.
Yes, that's right.
So that's like their motto.
They're also a company that's strictly speaking that's endorsed by mainstream gamers, which is, it's exciting to see that the sort of perspective shift for these companies one by one, and pretty quickly we'll have a lot of companies that are like, no, I mean, this is the future.
Well, there's almost like two kind of trains of thoughts when it comes to NFT games. It's like some people are like, games are supposed to be fun. They're not really supposed to be an investment tool. I don't really care, But the NFT, owning your own assets, that seems kind of neat, cool. Blanco's Block Party, you're owning your own skins. It's not really about earning a token. It's just like Fortnite NFT mode. And then there's other people who are like, well, no, we made a ton of money on play to earn because we were able to take advantage of the extreme volatility. And I explain this to people often where it's like, Bitcoin led me to ETH, ETH led me to altcoins, altcoins led me to shitcoins, shitcoins led me to DeFi, DeFi led me to play to earn. And every time I went through each of those stages, there was increasing levels of volatility.
Volatility, that's right.
But when something jumps 30% in a day, it doesn't. If you had $10 or $1,000, you're still getting that 30% jump. And obviously that's a little scary for some people because it can be more risky, right? The huge volatility, but it also means there's huge potential upsides. And that's something that I really enjoy about play to earn is the volatility in it, because we do get these huge highs and huge lows.
Yeah, I'm not mad. I'm not opposed to the idea of that either.
But both is the key. I think when both can be combined, where you've got a game where players, they don't need to go the investment route. They don't need to worry about farming tokens. They're just buying their skins. They're happy. They're playing the game. They don't feel the need to necessarily, which is also an issue, because if there isn't the feeling of need to put more money in, how's that going to help liquidity? But this is why I don't think this game exists yet. And then on the other side, you've got people playing it for the profits.
It kind of does though, because the whole freemium thing has people.
That was the first thing I was thinking of is closest.
You've got this. This is an example of a system where people get to decide whether or not they feel the need to put money into the game to get things.
Yeah, they can play the free version, or
they can do it a little bit more seriously or not. You know what I mean?
I think of Mavia.
Mavia is a good example, but for the Web2 gamers out there, my example is actually Pokemon Unite.
Okay.
I actually really enjoy playing that game, and it would be nice if I had a couple of more Pokemon to play with. Would it break the game for me to have them? No. Would it be, faster for me to spend the $10 or whatever it costs to get their little gems and then buy them? No. But if this game, Pokemon Unite, were an NFT game, I could spend that $10, I could get those Pokemon, and they would be mine.
Yeah, and when you're done using them,
or after if Pokemon wanted to make a new game, it'd be like anybody who invested $5 to buy our Pokemon from the old game can use their Pokemon in the new game. That's a store of value, and that's the kind of thing that we're looking for.
Yeah, and
it's a simple structure.
The freemium model, I think, is a good example
is a good way to
tackle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually, Mavia, now that we're talking about Mavia, just kind of bring up Mavia Elite, which we've been involved in for quite a few months now, reigning champions for 9 months.
Yeah, I can't believe that. So right? the results came in for Mavia Elite. We won again, and we we're like 0.4, I think it was,
away
points
from a
away
perfect
from a
score.
perfect score.
We had the best score in the
think that's
entire
absolutely
competition.
crazy, and I'm not disheartened that I wasn't on the team that month, but my teammates, they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun with the Mavia Elite program, and we're excited to see that it's going to continue. It's just going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, but we've got a substantial holding in that game. Actually, as far as our alliance goes, we are the largest holders.
It's like a pretty exciting game. A lot of people play Clash of Clans or played Clash of Clans, and it really holds a particular place for gamers because it's not a game that takes 1,000 years to play.
Yes. It values your time, and that's why I feel like it's such a good model for crypto.
Yes, but with Web3 attached to it, there's monetary value now attached to it, which would be really, really fun and exciting for those people who like to do.
But then they said, well, instead of releasing 100,000 land plots over a certain amount of time, which was their original plan, they just went, nope, we're going to stop at the 10. So it was just this 10. And basically, you crypto people are going to be 1 to 2% of our player base that are getting rewarded from the play to earn, but we expect 95 to 98% to be free to play. Yeah. And I'm like, I like that. That means the small kind of elite group of us in the crypto play to earn are going to be able to gain the maximum benefit.
It's also conducive to the market too, because there's going to be people who are going to be like, I want to learn about this game, I want to play this game, I want to be able to do everything that those guys can do, but I don't want to pay for it.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of people who are like that.
I think so too.
And these guys are like, we know that. We're not trying to resist that. Instead, we're going to embrace that, try to find a way to make them positive on the economy. The first way is just by garnering their interest in the first place and maybe getting them to actually buy, some NFTs and play the game properly. But the second way is like things like ad spend.
Yes.
And ad revenue from like Google ads or something like that. If they were to add something like that into the game, which my example would be Karma vs. Zombie again.
Yep.
Karma vs. Zombie has that ad revenue, and a portion of that ad revenue goes back into the earning pool for players to earn when they're playing the game, which is a super scalable thing. That means that if there's only 1,000 players playing, then they're earning what 1,000 players worth of ad spend might get, but there's only 1,000 of them who are earning it. Which means the relative value is X. And then if there's 1 million players playing the game, there's 1 million, players worth of ad revenue coming in, which is being divided among 1 million players, which means the revenue remains.
Yeah, 1.6 million players would only be 1% of Clash of Clans
which produces this really, really stable baseline for a game to just operate. And then when it becomes super popular, if it becomes super popular, then you start to see those highs and lows.
Well, here's the interesting thing too. Let's say you can get to, let's say a free-to-play player gets to Town Hall 8 or Headquarters 8, and they've spent a year doing this. Well, you could simply buy a Headquarters at that level from the NFT version and simply continue where you left off. So you're still getting that sense of, well, all my work wasn't lost. I still gained the experience of getting up to that point. I just got to a certain point where I finally decided to take the jump to play to earn. And now you're just buying a base that was in a very similar state to where yours was, and you can continue. And I think that ease of switching,
those same people might go, okay,
huge.
I'm going to buy a base at Headquarters 1, and it's going to be really easy for me to get it up to 8. Here's what it'll be worth when I do.
That's right.
So
and
that's also
people can start farming and reselling the bases and stuff. It's going to be interesting. Well, yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the stuff that was going on with a lot of these games, because there's been so many coming across our desk. I didn't even get to some of the other stuff going on in the news.
There's like 50 other projects that I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
That we can save that for the weeks coming, because I have more research to do before I can talk about them.
And there's a lot happening in the news right now and stuff, which is really interesting. I mean, Bitcoin just broke 30,000, which is absolutely incredible.
That's probably the most exciting thing. The Bitcoin breaking the 30,000 thing,
USD.
And these shell companies popping up that are calling themselves what was the term? Incubators?
Incubation, yeah.
That's a really, really good green flag for me to say that probably we can see, a bull run coming soon.
Well, yeah, I'll kind of end it off on this note. A lot of regular people are now understanding that in order to hedge against the financial crisis and the US dollar, it's either Bitcoin or gold, right? And a lot of people are saying, well, Bitcoin's been the best performing asset of Q1 this entire year.
Yeah, better
period.
than gold.
Right? And then, well, it's also poised to be the best performing asset for Q2 this year. So a lot of people who have very little understanding of crypto or are just looking for a way to hedge against inflation and the financial collapse and the US dollar are starting to being told by other people, hey, Bitcoin's a good idea.
Well, the big thing that's happening right now is that there's this like realizational shift among regular people that the financial collapse, quote unquote, is not a thing that we just joke about. It's a real thing that's going to happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And whether it happens huge or it happens just small, it's still going to be catastrophic for a lot of people. And it's not going away. That financial That's not going away. You know what I mean? It's not a joke that people can just, oh yeah, the whole financial system is going to collapse. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
Well, we're not all going to die, but the financial system is going to collapse a bit, maybe a lot. And this is the way that people are talking about getting ready for it.
Maybe let's talk about that during our next episode or next time we have you come in.
That's an important thing that we should talk about, is that people's perception of financial collapse and what might actually happen in the next 5 years with the traditional financial system.
Great idea. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. And until next time, cheers.